So our next speaker is Frank Holmes. Frank is the executive chairman of HIVE, and he's also the CEO of US Global Investors. Frank is a world-renowned investor, and he guided HIVE to become the first publicly traded miner. Frank's talk is going to illuminate how HIVE leads the industry by both sourcing green energy for all its data centers and how it sets standards for responsible mining and innovation. Let's put our hands together for Frank.
Well, good morning, everyone. In my journey of learning about this ecosystem comes from the money management, and I'm known for the world of gold. So I could easily move from gold into understanding the drivers behind Bitcoin. Both are decentralized assets. Both are significant in portable wealth, but in particular, gold you can wear. Bitcoin's hard to wear. In a real technical way, 60% of gold's demand is love. So I'm trying to figure out at the beginning, where's the love come from Bitcoin? And the love comes from the ecosystem, the intellectual capital that's here. And so before I get into the details of as a technology company, I want to make sure you all understand risk and the DNA of volatility. Very important as a money manager that I highlight this, and it changes over time. But right now, it's a non-event for 70% of the time for the stock market to go up or down 1%. It's a non-event. Gold is the same on a daily basis. 15 years ago, gold was higher than the S&P 500. So there's a change that takes place. Tesla is daily 3%. It used to be 6% until it went into the S&P 500. So there are events. There's a catalyst that goes through a transformation of one molecular structure to another, and the understanding of that, of Chemistry 101, you can understand capital markets better, that there's an event that can take place that changes this DNA of volatility. As you can see here, Bitcoin now is only 2% daily volatility. It was 4%. Creating all these ETF products in the US has been a significant game changer. And now they're going to allow options on those ETFs. That will also mutate that DNA of volatility, and it will also change liquidity. It will improve liquidity. Over 10 days is more significant than most investors, but you can see here that Tesla still is quite high at 9%. HIVE is only for those that have strong courage and conviction to understand the industry, and it's 19% over any 10-day running period. It's a non-event for HIVE to go up 19% and fall 19%. That's this DNA of volatility, and I'm happy to say that Michael Saylor, he's got a higher volatility than us, if you're afraid of volatility. So HIVE is a technology company, and it's unique in the space because when I first went to launch it, I was trying to launch a Bitcoin ETF in 2017, and I recognized that it wasn't going to happen even after spending $1,000 an hour legal bills in Canada or the US on concerns on anti-money laundering laws and KYC. But when you're a miner, you don't have that problem. And you create the virgin coins. And therefore, I said I would put money up and participate as chairman and put up the seed capital to launch the first crypto mining company. There's so many things I did not know. I mean, it has been such a challenge, but at my age, it really has kept my dendrites and my neurons firing to learn all the time. And the biggest and the most significant part is data centers. And data centers are the key for the great digital transformation. If you don't have a data center, you don't have a mobile phone, you don't have Netflix, you don't have Spotify, you don't have gaming, it's all gone. So data centers is what's key. And when we come into Bitcoin mining, I learned that data centers, it's all about ASIC chips. Whereas Ethereum, before it went for the dark side, from the light side, that is from proof of work to proof of stake, it was GPU chips that was necessary, more complex. Well, you don't realize at the beginning that complexity has allowed HIVE to pivot and also go into AI, the first to go into AI. So we have up here many firsts. First to go public. It was my proxy not to have a Bitcoin ETF. Thank God I didn't hold my breath, because 2017 is when HIVE started, and just this year in the US, the Bitcoin ETFs came out. So it had been a long wait. But we were the first to go out, and immediately Hut 8 came out, went public, following on the success of us. Novakratz went public in Canada with his company Galaxy on the success of HIVE. I had dinner with him at the beginning. They wanted to know what we did, etc., how it was such a raving success. Part of that great success of HIVE is that I'm known for the world of gold, and there were many gold investors that were reluctant to go buy Bitcoin on an exchange. They were worried about scam artists like Sam Bankman, who fried the industry. It's recognizing, they said, I want to participate because the concept of Bitcoin is so similar to gold, except for scarcity is even more profound. And so that you saw this sort of thought process, well, we will use HIVE as a proxy. So HIVE launches with such success because it was a proxy for gold investors. And that drove the retail. And what I have found is that you need to have retail for price discovery, and after that comes the tunas, and then come the sharks, and then come the whales and the killer whales. So the whole ecosystem, the biodiversity starts to grow, but you need to have the minnows. And that's what HIVE did, not realizing it was going to be such a big success, that there was so much pent-up demand by gold investors to come in. Then it was taken over by institutions like Fidelity to raise the capital. But we were first to buy data centers. We were first to be green focused. We were first to balance the electrical grid, and first to have an AI strategy, which has happened because we're the most talented in understanding GPU chips. The other part that I'm always amazed with is that HIVE operates in 9 time zones. Many of our peers operate in 1 time zone, 1 state, and they still are so inefficient in mining Bitcoin. So you know the complexity that your Swedish documents are in Swedish, translate to English, and then from Iceland it's in Danish, from Quebec it's in French, and it's English, and then next year this time will be in Spanish also. So we'll have 5 languages in 9 time zones with 20 people. How do we do it? It's all about a model called the royalty model in the gold business. And that's the concept that we've tried to have, and the team of 20 is to be Navy SEALs. Not the US Army, not the Marines, but Navy SEALs that know how to manage all these time zones and the dexterity that's necessary. You see the picture up here, they're all here. You can please visit with them, ask questions about what we do and how we think. Future vision. Well, Bitcoin mining, the only thing that's critical in Bitcoin mining is just grow your exahash, just grow. Issue shares and just get production. We have had a different approach because we're much more focused on the return on invested capital, and that's something that we have done. We have not had an operating income loss even during the crisis of Bankman and Celsius in that journey. And Ethereum left, which was a very profitable business, and then all of a sudden we have Bankman and everything crashes. We are still able to eke out an operating income. And I think so much is the structure and really the quality of the people that get shit done. And so with that, we say we have to grow, but it's been really hard. Okay, it's really, really hard to get 100 megawatts of green energy. You get 30, you go through a negotiation process, you find out it's got all these difficulties to get it. So we found it in Paraguay. And we've sent our team down. We met with the president of the country. We took a chopper, visit the dam, visit all the facilities that are out there. And we have a great conviction that we think that this is a great avenue in Latin America. The other part, which a lot of people don't grasp, is the geopolitics. Paraguay loves America. Just understand, it's really important. Venezuela doesn't. Colombia doesn't. Brazil doesn't. Paraguay does. And you find out in that journey that the history of Paraguay was almost decimated, but it was the U.S. government under President Hayes that came in that basically solved all the problems and created this as gave them all back their land, because there was a fight 100 and some odd years ago between Brazil and Uruguay, and they went through Brazil, and it was just a devastation of children being wiped out. And it was the U.S. that came in that provided the stability. Now, I didn't know this, and it's not easy to read, but in your journey going down, all of a sudden you start to learn and discover. So HIVE's mission is to help integrate the future of computing, of the future, and be very climate sensitive, but it's not the only factor that drives us. There's other factors that drive us in what we've been able to do. That's a picture of our dam that's very close to our facility, low cost, low temperature, and fast internet connection. Really 3 key factors. In the journey of creating HIVE, the first facility was Iceland, geothermal energy. And in going into Iceland, it was immediate cash flow, and it was mining Ethereum. And then when we expanded into Sweden, at first it was mining Ethereum. Now, during the whole period of Bitcoin halving, we made money every day. Why? Because we were mining Ethereum. The gross margins on Ethereum were between 60% and 90%. It covered all the volatility, because Bitcoin mining is not a pretty business when you're looking at volatility. It's to recognize those differences in trying to run cash flow and spend money. So with that, when it went, the AI strategy just fits in perfect for many reasons, which I'll highlight a little later. But the Bitcoin mining industry is you have to be so conscientious, not only the cost of your electricity, but the efficiency of how you run your facilities, because you will get these incredible volatile periods in profit margin. So this is a picture of a hangar, a helicopter military hangar in Boden, Sweden, 100 kilometers south of the Arctic Circle. This is where we built out, at one time we were 6% of the Ethereum network. And one of the things I learned about the structure of an ecosystem is what Ethereum did. There was 30 million kids. Now, my age, I had a paper route. That's how I made money. These kids took their GPU chips, and after they were in gaming, they turned them on, and their parents used their parents' electricity, and they went and mined Ethereum. And every year, they could get 1 to 2 Ethereum coins, and that gave them an extra $3,000, sometimes $6,000 in a year of cash flow. And they couldn't open a bank account or a brokerage account, but these kids were able to open up an account on an exchange. So the barriers to entry to open up and get liquidity by these kids was incredible, and that basically was 30 million wallets. That's 30 million activity. And when it went from proof of work to proof of stake, they wiped that out. And what's happened to Ethereum since then? The ratio to Bitcoin to Ethereum has been actually widening, and Bitcoin has been much more attractive investment. We're the first to hodl, and we blew out all of our Ethereum, and it was actually a good decision when you look back at what's happened, because they have destroyed this diverse ecosystem. So this is downtown Stockholm. We keep reminding bureaucrats in Sweden that if you don't have a data center, it's sort of the strangest thing is that they actually think it's all free. They think that your mobile, your connectivity, the apps, everything functions because everything should be free, not realizing no data centers. There is no Spotify that comes from Sweden. There's no Minecraft. It doesn't happen. And it's this sort of educational process that Johanna, who's right here, is the president of running everything in Sweden, has to, on a regular basis, be educating politicians regarding this ecosystem. Sweden is positioned to be a key player in this global digital world. Norway has oil and gas for energy. They don't like it, but that's where they have $1 trillion for 8 million people, or more than $1 trillion sovereign fund. Sweden, it has wind. It also has, most important, is hydro. It has an abundance. And that's why Facebook, Meta, is in Boden, just outside of Boden. It has the largest data center in Europe, the third largest in the world, because of access to this green energy. This is a picture of our facility that at one time was 6% of the world's Ethereum production. It is in Boden, Sweden, and as you can see, it handles a lot of snow in the winter. This is part of our ESG strategy of being involved with the community. Hockey is the most significant. It's like live in San Antonio, Texas, and Friday Night Football dominates everything. In Boden, it is hockey, more so than I've experienced in Canada, where I'm originally from. Everything there is around the hockey arena. So they needed money to expand, and so we've turned around and we sponsor 12 kids teams. It's basically a super babysitting outfit. Parents drop their kids off at different levels and develop the skill set. I think there's 3 retired Swedish hockey players that have rings on from winning the Stanley Cup. And they are local rock star heroes, and they come out to the arena, and it's a wonderful experience to see what's going on. HIVE has been very much involved in the community. And that's something that I look at our peers, they are not. So HIVE buys energy to mine Bitcoin. HIVE then sells energy to balance the grid. We were first to do that. I believe Riot then took that idea to Texas. They then bought an asset, land, and then they went out to go balance the grid. In fact, they make more money from balancing the grid, it appears, than mining Bitcoin. And I know them all really well. They're all great guys, but I just know that when you look at Anthony Powers here, where is Anthony? He's hiding over there. He does a phenomenal job on doing a comparative analysis. He's a CPA, and he looks at all the numbers and does a ranking. And what you see is this numbers of efficiency can show up as an efficient miner. And what we were doing in Sweden was being able to help the community, the utility company, that in the morning, when it's freezing cold, minus 25 Celsius outside, and everyone turns on their toaster and hot shower, there's a surge in electricity demand that our software can go from 30 megawatts to 3 in seconds. And that energy is now given back, and then all the energy that's wasted all night long we consume, then we turn it back on at 9 o'clock, basically back up to 30. And then at 5 o'clock until about 8 o'clock, there's another power surge. Everyone's gone home to have dinner, kids are doing the homework, and it all drops again. And then all of a sudden, we're back and we're pumped up in mining Ethereum. Now we're mining Bitcoin. So the concept of being a local provider is cheaper than the utility company to spend $100 million building another hydro dam to provide energy needs for peak periods. It's cheaper for a partner with us to be the facilitator of balancing the grid. And we were the first to do it on a global scale, a big number scale, and it's been a great source of cash flow for us to maintain our growth profile. So what we've also done in Montreal, in Quebec, this is Lachute, and from the data center, this is an old graphite plant, repurposed, 30 megawatts of electricity, and throws off a lot of heat. So that basically that heat is captured, sent along this pipe, a hot liquid that goes into a building 200,000 square feet. So our building's about 40,000 square feet. That building's 200,000 square feet. We take the same molecule of electricity and we repurpose it for heating this big building that makes whirlpools. And they have 100 employees making whirlpools. They're the biggest player in the province of Quebec. So you are able, with good engineers, electrical engineers, to find a way and apply those laws of geothermodynamics and keep recycling that molecule. So the big growth I mentioned earlier is Paraguay. And as you can see here, this is a massive dam. And what happened in the country of Paraguay is that they have surplus electricity and they sold it to a wonderful country called Argentina. Until they had a new leader come in, Milei, Argentina had not paid them for 3 years. So how do they get paid for this electricity they have? And along comes Bitcoin mining, and they get paid every month. They get US dollars. It's a currency hedge that no bank has the capital put up to protect them for the next 3 to 4 years, if you think of the 4-year cycle. So we're providing not just a community function as a Bitcoin miner, we're on a national scope. We are helping a country balance, make sure they get paid on a regular basis. Just 2 months ago, Argentina, and their new leadership, which has done a phenomenal job, wrote a check for $100 million, but they still owe another $100 million to Paraguay for the past 3 years, not the Bitcoin miners. So it's an interesting dynamic. So HIVE, we're very, very proud of what we've been able to do as a team. And this is a metric of looking at Bitcoin mined versus divided by the average active hash rate. And we show up there along with Bit Digital. But on a regular basis, we're up at the number 1 or number 2. And so we're very proud because we function in 9 time zones in 4 languages. Not 1 in the state of Texas. Not 1 in the state of Pennsylvania. We're in 1. No, we're in many. There's another metric of looking at revenue per energized petahash. And as you can see here, once again, and this is put out by Power Mining and Analysis, and anyone want to understand the industry better from the public companies, Anthony's over here in the back as a chat up with him. But there's other metrics we use, and one of the things that's used in the industry is your exahash growth. And exahash growth is highly correlated to revenue. It's highly correlated to your Bitcoin production, which is correlated to the revenue. So the industry as a whole looks at what is your future, and they'll overpay, dramatically overpay for future exahash. Now, can you execute on that? Will you be able to do all the factors that go with it? But that's what sort of the big dynamic that's happened in the industry. And some people, and rightfully so, are skeptical that it's like the dot-com boom and bust, and everyone was looking at clicks. But clicks and eyeballs was not correlate to revenue for many reasons, whereas exahash is. And so what we needed to have at HIVE was something green and something that would double to triple our production, and that's why we said, okay, we're going to go Paraguay. These are other metrics that just take a look at enterprise value to annualized adjusted EBITDA. We're the least expensive, and I was asked, why is that? Well, there's 2 reasons. One is our peers have issued so many shares, like unbelievable number of shares in the past 2 years, 300% dilution, 300%, not 30. And we're very proud that what do we spend for getting that exahash, that equipment and that facility is the least expensive. So their market caps are much bigger, and the multiple is because they've issued all these shares to get this exahash. Our model is to be more prudent return on invested capital. The other part is if you get listed on the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ, it doesn't really get you into the indexes. You have to have the home address has to be in America. It has to be in the US. So you want to go in the Russell 2000, that's what drove up HUT 8 to high valuations. It's because all these indexes just start buying. If you look at Marathon, you look at Riot, and the indexes that own them, the funds that own them, they're not very few active fund managers. They're predominantly index-driven mutual funds at Vanguard or at like the Russell 2000s. But I think pound for pound, we give you the best bang for your buck. There's our profile. We'll grow in the next 12 months 120%. We're very proud of this, that our revenue and gross margins, even during the worst of times, were profitable. And this is non-cash charges, but when you look at operating income, it's done exceptionally well. So the growth is going to be our HPC strategy. And for those in the Bitcoin mining, understand it. Today, you're making 12 cents an hour approximately off a S19 Pro. 12 cents. Nothing. Your cost is, say, 6 cents. You got 6 cents of margin to pay everything and all the other costs. But for our GPU chips, we're getting $1. It's just like mining Ethereum. It was just unbelievable what that difference is. But you just can't jump in it. And we've seen several companies all of a sudden launch. They're going into HPC and AI. It's very, very complex. And anyone that thinks they could just plug in some machines, they're foolish to tell you that story. So our goal is $250,000 a quarter, $250,000 a month, $250,000 a week, and $250,000 a day. It's pushing that we're over $250,000 a month, and hopefully get up here to $250,000 a week shortly. And it's about the transfer of old chips. We've got all our money back for mining Ethereum and move them over. So in that journey, we're a platinum buyer with NVIDIA. We've been with Jensen. We've been with senior management, and we believe that we're so well positioned. We have bought a lot of chips. We've increased our H100, and I think the other part is that we recognized this year this huge run for energy. The valuation, if you have access to energy, is huge. In the US, you're pushing $2 million a megawatt. If it's stable energy, where you can do HPC. If it's unstable, then you're not going to get that valuation. So we looked at some of our facilities, and we made the press release that we're going to convert about 30 megawatts into HPC. Well, that spend is much more money, but interesting enough, that valuation metric is huge because 30 megawatts, everyone write this down, 30 megawatts of HPC is like 300 megawatts of Bitcoin mining. The cost for a megawatt in Bitcoin mining is $1 million a megawatt. For HPC, it's 10 million. That's the front load cost of your infrastructure. That's not your chips. So it's much more front end loaded, but the revenue is much, much more stable. On the H100s, I think we're getting $2.30 an hour, not 12 cents. See the difference? It's huge in running a business. So I want to just hop before I end this presentation. I am 69 and a half years old, and in the research about AI, I discovered that the term AI was in 1955 when I was born. So all of a sudden now it's growing dramatically. Everyone's talking about it, but it's been incubated almost 70 years ago. And so it's to recognize that there's pivot points that all of a sudden something happens that's a catalyst for exponential growth. Thank you, everyone. I hope you found it informative and helpful.
Thank you.